The galaxy had many stories, but none stranger than the tale of humans. For 3,000 years, these creatures lived only in old books and bedtime stories. The great Vorthok Empire with their scales and sharp teeth ruled 17 star systems. They laughed at the human stories and called them silly myths made up by ancient people to scare children. Commander Hyunwoo stood on his big warship looking at the stars. His ship was huge with thick armor and powerful guns that could destroy planets. He was reading reports from his soldiers who watched the empty parts of space near the galaxy edge. His helper Crix came to him with a worried look on his scaly face. Crix handed him a small computer tablet. The screen showed strange energy patterns that his sensors had found near the Andromeda Gate. The readings made no sense. They showed perfect shapes and power levels that were impossible. The energy came from huge objects moving through space that were bigger than their largest battle stations. Hyunwoo looked at the data with his golden eyes getting narrow. He had fought in many wars and seen all kinds of alien technology, but this was different. The patterns were too perfect and too powerful. Whatever made these readings was not like any species they knew about. The shapes moved in straight lines and perfect circles like someone was drawing with a ruler in empty space. On the peaceful trading world called New, Busan merchant captain So Young was doing business with spider-like aliens called Chitara. She was buying rare metals when loud alarms started going off all over the spaceport. The spider aliens started running around in panic as emergency messages appeared on every screen and speaker. The messages said that ancient ruins on 12 different worlds had all turned on at the same time after being dead for thousands of years. These old buildings were now showing hologram movies in a language that no one could read. The holograms showed creatures that walked on two legs like humans in the old stories. So Young watched the hologram recordings on her ship computer. The creatures in the movies had smooth skin without scales or fur. They had strange hands with 5 fingers and eyes that seemed very deep and intelligent. When they spoke, their voices sounded beautiful and musical, but also scary in a way that made her skin crawl. Dr. Minho was the smartest person in the galaxy when it came to studying old dead civilizations. He got emergency money from the government to study these ruins right away. His team of scientists flew to the ruins and found something that shocked them. The old buildings were not empty cities left behind by dead people. They were signal towers that had been waiting for thousands of years to turn on. Each ruin had a huge power source that was still working perfectly after all this time. The power sources were sending coordinates to a specific place in deep space, far away from any star or planet. The coordinates pointed to empty darkness between galaxies where nothing should exist. When news about the ruins spread through space communication networks, panic started. The Vorthok Empire sent all their warships to guard their borders. They thought someone had built a secret weapon to attack them. The crystal people called Zephyrians closed all roads into their territory. The gas cloud aliens called Nebula Collective hid in their storm worlds. But on a small research station near a dying star, young scientist, Da Yun was working day and night to understand the hologram messages. She was very smart with mathematics and spent weeks studying the strange language. Finally, she found something amazing hidden in the messages. They contained perfect math equations that described how the universe worked. The equations were not random numbers. They showed the forces that hold atoms together and make stars burn and keep planets spinning. Only someone who understood the deepest secrets of reality could write such perfect math. These were not war messages or threats. They were greetings from beings so smart they seemed almost like gods. Da-un worked for 3 more days without sleeping to decode more of the message. When she finally understood what it said, she felt cold fear run through her body. The message was simple but terrifying. It said, "We return home, prepare for contact." The coordinates in the message pointed to empty space between galaxies where nothing should live. The news reached the Galactic Council within hours. All the different alien species that ruled parts of the galaxy called emergency meetings. Fear spread faster than light through hyperspace communication networks. If these human creatures from the old stories were real and had technology that could work for thousands of years, then they were far more dangerous than any enemy the galaxy had ever faced. Military leaders studied the energy readings over and over. The objects moving toward their galaxy were not just big, they were impossibly huge. Each one generated more power than entire solar systems. They moved faster than light without using the hyperspace roads that everyone else needed. Their technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. Scientists tried to understand how creatures from old myths could be real. They looked at the math in the messages and realized these beings understood secrets about reality that no one else knew. The equations showed ways to control space and time itself. If someone could do that, they could travel anywhere and do anything. Religious leaders from different species started saying this was the end of everything. Some said these humans were ancient gods coming back to judge the galaxy. Others said they were demons coming to destroy all life. Fear grew stronger each day as more reports came in about the strange objects getting closer. The hologram messages kept playing on every world. The human creatures spoke in their musical voices that somehow everyone could understand, even though the language was alien. They showed images of a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. They showed their people spreading out among the stars before disappearing into darkness. As fear reached every corner of the galaxy, people started to remember other old stories. Every species had legends about first makers or sky fathers who had visited them long ago. When scientists compared these old stories, they found something shocking. All the descriptions matched the creatures in the hologram messages. The galaxy was about to learn that some myths are not stories but memories of forgotten truth. The humans were coming home and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 months passed after the ancient ruins started sending their scary messages. The biggest meeting in galaxy history happened on Harmony Station. This was a special world where no one was allowed to fight. Representatives from 47 different alien species came together in the great meeting hall. The hall was enormous with a dome roof that showed the stars above. Different species needed different things to survive, so the hall had many climate zones. Some areas were hot and dry for desert species, while others were cold and wet for water dwellers. The air had different mixtures of gases so everyone could breathe. Ambassador Taemin of the Vorthak Empire stood up to speak. His ceremonial armor was covered in gold and precious stones that sparkled under the artificial suns. His voice was deep and commanding as he addressed the crowd of strange alien forms before him. Fellow beings, we face something that has never happened before. These transmissions suggest there exists a species with technology far beyond what any of us possess. Their power readings are impossible by all known science, yet our sensors do not lie. The spider-like Chitara delegate Ambassador Yuna clicked her sharp mouthparts together in agreement. Her species controlled most of the information networks in the galaxy. They had the fastest computers and the smartest artificial intelligence systems. But even their quantum computers could not fully understand the human messages. Our analysis shows these beings do not just have better technology. They have a completely different way of controlling reality itself. The energy patterns they create follow rules we do not understand. They can bend space and time in ways that should be impossible. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun of the United Defense Coalition presented military information to the frightened assembly. He was an old warrior who had fought in many space battles. His uniform had medals from dozens of victories, but his face showed worry and fear. The energy readings from their approaching vessels suggest ships of unprecedented size. Each one generates more power than our entire home systems. Their movement patterns ignore known physics. They travel faster than light without using hyperspace lanes, which should be impossible according to everything we know. As the different species argued about what to do, a young communications officer named Jiwoo burst into the chamber. She had urgent news that made everyone stop talking. Long-range sensors had detected massive distortions in space itself. Whatever was coming would arrive in days, not weeks, as they had hoped. The news created chaos in the assembly hall. Different species started shouting and making angry noises at each other. The militant Vorthak wanted to gather all military ships and prepare for war. The peaceful crystal Zephyrians said they should try to talk and make peace. The water-dwelling Deepsworn wanted to hide in their ocean worlds until the danger passed. Nobody could agree on what to do. Some species wanted to fight while others wanted to hide. A few brave ones wanted to try communicating, but most were too scared to think clearly. The arguing got louder and louder until Dr. So-Jin stood up to speak. Dr. So-Jin was the smartest person in the galaxy when it came to understanding how different alien minds worked. She had studied every known species and learned their languages and customs. Her voice was calm and steady as she spoke to the panicked delegates. After studying these transmissions for weeks, I have reached a conclusion that you may find hard to believe. These beings are not invaders coming to conquer us. They are returning natives coming home after a very long journey. Everything about their approach suggests they consider this galaxy to be their home. The assembly hall became quiet as everyone listened to her explanation. She showed them data on her portable computer screen projected large enough for all to see. The mathematical patterns in the human transmissions matched fundamental forces that governed all known life in the galaxy. My analysis reveals hidden patterns in how our species evolved. Certain genetic markers found in multiple species suggest we all share common ancestry, but this common ancestor did not come from any known world. The mathematical constants in these transmissions match the fundamental forces that control all life we know. Her words shocked everyone into silence. What she was suggesting seemed impossible, but her reputation for being right about alien behavior made them listen carefully. She continued her explanation while showing more data on the big screen. The approaching fleet moves in patterns that show respect, not aggression. They dim stars as they pass, which creates shadows, but does not damage anything. This is like knocking on a door before entering. They are announcing their presence and giving us time to prepare. Archaeological teams working at the ancient ruins had found more evidence to support her theory. Every advanced species in the galaxy had old legends about first makers or skyfathers. These were powerful beings who had lived among them long ago before disappearing into the void between stars. When the old stories were translated properly, they all described the same type of creatures. 2 legs, 2 arms, smooth skin, and eyes that seemed to hold infinite wisdom. The descriptions matched perfectly with the figures shown in the hologram messages from the ruins. Dr. So-Jin showed the assembly recordings of these old legends from dozens of different worlds. Species that had never met each other had almost identical stories about ancient visitors who had taught them important knowledge before leaving. The similarities were too exact to be coincidence. As the delegates studied this, evidence monitoring stations across the galaxy began reporting the same phenomenon. Stars were going dark in perfect geometric patterns as something massive passed between them and the planets. The approaching fleet was so huge it cast shadows across entire solar systems. The final proof came from archaeological teams who had worked day and night to understand the ancient technology. They discovered that the ruins were not just signal beacons, but also contained historical records. These records told the story of beings who had sacrificed everything to protect their children. The records were written in quantum crystal matrices that stored information at the atomic level. When finally decoded, they revealed that long ago these human creatures had faced a terrible choice. They could save the galaxy from destruction, but only by leaving it forever and fighting an enemy in the darkness between stars. Ambassador. Taman looked at all this evidence and felt his certainty about war crumbling away. The energy readings that had seemed so threatening now looked different when viewed as protection, rather than weapons. These beings had not come to conquer, but to reunite with family they had left behind. As realization dawned on the assembled delegates that they were about to meet their creators, the galaxy held its breath and waited for first contact with humanity. The cosmic threat return was announced not by sensors or warning systems, but by reality itself beginning to break apart at the edges. Stars in distant galaxies started disappearing one by one in perfect mathematical patterns. Space itself developed cracks that showed glimpses of absolute nothingness. The fundamental forces that held atoms together began to weaken in ways that made scientists across the galaxy panic. Admiral Ji-un stood on the bridge of humanity's greatest gift to their galactic children. The ship Eternal Harmony had been built through the combined efforts of every species working together. It was powered not by fusion reactors or antimatter, but by the collective willpower of all conscious beings in the galaxy. The ship existed partially outside normal space and time, which allowed it to serve as a command center for operations across multiple dimensions. From here, Admiral Ji-un could communicate instantly with fleets positioned throughout the galaxy, and even with human ships that existed in the void between realities. The humans revealed their final secret as the crisis deepened and reality began to unravel around them. Captain Yeon-su appeared as a hologram that seemed more real than physical matter as she explained what they had truly learned. During their exile in the darkness, we did not simply fight the anti-consciousness force with weapons and military tactics. We learned the first human ship to come out of the darkness between galaxies was like nothing anyone had ever imagined. It was a perfect black sphere 3 kilometers wide that moved without any engines or thrusters that anyone could see. When military sensors tried to scan it, they got readings that made no sense. The ship was not quite solid and seemed to exist in several dimensions at the same time. Admiral Seung-ho commanded the Vorthak First Fleet from his flagship, the Dominator. His ship was 3 times bigger than any other vessel in the fleet, with armor thick enough to stop planet-killing weapons. Around him floated dozens of other massive warships in perfect battle formation, but when the black sphere appeared, all these mighty vessels looked like small toys in comparison. The sphere stopped exactly 1 million kilometers away from the fleet and hung motionless in empty space. No radio signals came from it and no energy weapons powered up for attack. It simply waited, as if giving the galaxy time to understand what they were seeing. The silence was more frightening than any battle cry would have been. Then, without any warning, the sphere began to sing. The sound traveled through the vacuum of space itself, which should have been impossible. Every ship hull started vibrating with beautiful music. The sound went through metal and reached into the bones of every crew member, making them feel things they had never felt before. Admiral Seung-ho found tears running down his scaly cheeks as the music filled his mind. It told a story of vast distances traveled and incredible loneliness endured, but most of all, it expressed overwhelming joy at finally coming home after being away for so very long. Even his toughest warriors were crying like children. Communications officer Hae-jin was working aboard the research ship New Seoul when she realized something amazing. The beautiful song contained hidden information streams woven into the musical notes. Her computer started showing detailed star charts that mapped every inhabited world in the galaxy with perfect accuracy. The hidden data included technical specifications for advanced technologies and biographical information about important political leaders from every species. These human beings had been watching the galaxy for centuries, learning everything about the civilizations that had grown up in their absence. When the song ended, the silence felt empty and cold. Then a voice spoke that reached directly into the minds of everyone who heard it. The words formed in their thoughts without needing translation devices. Every species heard it in their own language at the same time. Children of the galaxy, we have returned. Do not fear us. We come not as conquerors seeking to rule over you, but as family coming home to those we love. We have traveled far and fought hard to return to you. What happened next was the most incredible display of technology ever witnessed. The black sphere projected a holographic image that covered the entire star system. The projection was so detailed and realistic that people forgot they were looking at light patterns and thought they were seeing real things. The hologram showed the galaxy as it had existed millions of years ago. A small blue world called Earth was marked in an unremarkable corner orbiting a yellow star. The image moved forward through time, showing how humans had spread from world to world, building cities and learning to travel between the stars. Captain Namjoon watched from his exploration ship, Starlight, as the hologram revealed truths that destroyed everything the galaxy thought it knew about history. Humans had not been primitive creatures from mythology. They had been the first species to develop faster than light travel and artificial intelligence. They had been the first to transcend the limitations of biology through technology. But the hologram showed something that made everyone watching feel cold with horror. A massive threat had been approaching the galaxy, something so destructive it would have killed all life within 50,000 years. The cosmic entity was like a wave of absolute destruction that consumed everything in its path. The humans had possessed the technology needed to stop this threat, but using it required them to make the ultimate sacrifice. They would have to leave the galaxy completely and venture into the empty void between galaxies to fight a war that might last forever. The holographic display showed human ships preparing for their departure. These were not the crude rockets of ancient mythology, but vessels of incredible beauty and power that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. Each ship was a work of art that could travel faster than thought itself. Before leaving, the humans had done something that revealed the depth of their love for the future. They had visited dozens of worlds and planted the genetic seeds that would eventually grow into all the current galactic species. Every thinking being in the galaxy carried human genetic material as their inheritance. Captain Namjoon felt overwhelmed as he watched human ships departing through massive portals that tore holes in reality itself. The portals showed glimpses of the void between galaxies where no stars shone and no planets turned. It was a realm of absolute darkness where only the strongest could survive. The voice continued speaking with emotion so powerful, they made hardened warriors weep like children. We fought in the darkness between stars against an enemy that sought to destroy all consciousness everywhere. The war lasted longer than the age of your civilizations, but we never forgot what we were fighting to protect. The hologram showed brief glimpses of the cosmic war. Battles fought in dimensions that had no names against enemies that existed as pure destructive force. Human ships that had evolved into living beings of light fought creatures made of entropy and chaos in conflicts that spanned millions of years. We won the war, but victory came at a terrible cost. We are no longer the same humans who departed from Earth so long ago. The void between galaxies changed us in ways we could never have imagined. But through all our transformations, we kept our memories of home and our love for the children we had left behind. The holographic display faded away, leaving the assembled fleet staring at the black sphere in stunned silence. Everything they had believed about galactic history was wrong. They were not random evolutionary accidents, but the carefully planned descendants of beings who had sacrificed everything to ensure their survival. Admiral Sung-ho realized that his weapons were not just useless against these returned humans, but completely inappropriate. You do not point guns at your parents when they come home from a long and dangerous journey. He ordered all weapons powered down and shields lowered as a gesture of respect and welcome. The black sphere began to glow with soft golden light, and more spheres started appearing around it. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands of identical ships emerging from the darkness like stars being born. Each one carried the descendants of Earth who had kept their promise to return home. As the human fleet took positions throughout the star system, their presence felt like a warm embrace rather than an invasion. They had come home not to conquer, but to reunite with the family they had never stopped loving, even across the vast emptiness between galaxies. The human presence transformed galactic civilization within a single rotation cycle. Their city ships became centers of learning, where species that had been enemies for millennia worked side by side to understand concepts that challenged everything they thought they knew about existence. The aggressive Vorthak discovered their warrior culture could be channeled into protecting rather than conquering, while the reclusive Zephyrians learned that true crystal clarity came from connection rather than isolation. Ambassador Min-Suk established the first interspecies evolution council on the neutral world of New Terra, a planet the humans had gifted to the galaxy by literally singing it into existence from cosmic dust and starlight. Her opening address to representatives from 87 species would later be remembered as the moment galactic civilization truly began. We stand not as separate peoples, but as one family preparing for a journey none of us can complete alone. The humans' teaching methods defied conventional understanding. Master Instructor Wu Jin didn't lecture about quantum consciousness. He helped students experience it directly by temporarily linking their minds to the galactic information matrix. Students would suddenly understand how their thoughts influenced reality on a fundamental level, how consciousness itself was the universe's method of understanding its own existence. However, not every species embraced the opportunity for evolution. The industrial hammerfists, a race of cybernetic beings who had replaced most of their biology with machinery, viewed the human teachings as a threat to their technological supremacy. Their leader, Forge Master Thane, publicly declared that evolution through consciousness was weakness. That true power came from cold metal and calculated logic. The crisis came when the Hammerfists attempted to capture a human city ship using a weapon they had secretly developed. A consciousness disruptor designed to sever the connections that allowed human mental linking. The attack failed catastrophically, but not because of human retaliation. Instead, every species that had been studying human teachings spontaneously linked together to protect their teachers, creating a defensive network that spanned half the galaxy. Dr. Sun Wu, leading the galaxy's first joint species research team, made a breakthrough that changed everything. While analyzing the failed Hammerfist weapon, her team discovered that the cosmic threat humans had fought was not a physical enemy, but a form of anti-consciousness, a force that sought to reduce all existence to simple, predictable patterns. The humans hadn't fought a war, they had fought entropy itself. This revelation sparked the Great Awakening, a period when species across the galaxy began to understand their true purpose. They weren't just random evolutionary accidents, but active participants in the universe's quest for self-understanding. Every unique perspective, every cultural achievement, every individual moment of awareness added to the cosmic consciousness that would be needed to face the returning threat. Captain Boram of the exploration vessel Unity's Promise led the first mixed species crew on a journey to the galactic core, where ancient human artifacts had begun resonating with increasing intensity. What they found there challenged every assumption about space and time. A massive structure that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, built by humans before their exile as a backup plan. The structure, which the humans called the Infinity Engine, was designed to preserve all galactic consciousness in case their mission failed. But it could only be activated by representatives of every species working in perfect harmony, their combined willpower literally reshaping reality to ensure survival. It was both humanity's greatest gift and their ultimate test for their children. As the various species began training to operate the Infinity Engine, long-buried conflicts and prejudices surfaced. The crystalline Zephyrians struggled to work with the fluid Nebula Collective, while the proud Vorthak had difficulty accepting guidance from species they had previously considered inferior. The humans watched these struggles with patient understanding, knowing that unity could not be forced, only chosen. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: the children. Young beings from every species, unburdened by centuries of cultural conditioning, began forming natural bonds that transcended their biological differences. They instinctively understood concepts that baffled their elders and began teaching adults how to see beyond the limitations of their single-species perspectives. The human fleet that came out of the darkness was beyond anything the galaxy could have imagined. Not hundreds of ships, but millions appeared, filling the space between worlds like a glowing constellation. These were not crude metal constructs, but living vessels that pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. Each ship seemed to be alive, breathing and moving like some beautiful space creature. The ships arranged themselves in formation, patterns that created massive spirals and circles of light, visible from distant star systems. The patterns were so beautiful that people on thousands of worlds stopped what they were doing just to look up at the sky and wonder. Children pointed at the lights and asked their parents if the humans had come to play with them. Commander J1 found himself chosen for the newly created First Contact Division. His job was to establish ways for humans and their galactic children to talk to each other safely. His first meeting with the returned humans took place aboard their flagship, a living city called Eternal, Dawn, that housed over 10 million souls. Walking through the corridors of the human ship was like moving through the inside of a living creature. The walls glowed with soft light that changed colors based on the emotions of people nearby. The floor felt warm and slightly soft, like walking on living tissue. Everything was organic and beautiful in ways that made him feel peaceful. The humans themselves had changed during their long journey between the galaxies. They still looked basically the same, with 2 arms and 2 legs and smooth skin, but now their skin held a subtle glow like moonlight on water. Their eyes reflected starlight like mirrors and seemed to hold the wisdom of ages beyond counting. Captain Yansu was chosen to be humanity main speaker to the galaxy. When she talked, her voice carried harmonics that touched the deepest parts of consciousness. Her words reached not just the ears, but the soul itself. She spoke with the authority of someone who had seen the birth and death of entire universes. We left this galaxy as one species fleeing into exile to save those we loved. We return as something far greater than what we once were. The darkness between galaxies changed us in ways we never expected. But through all our transformations, our love for you never faded or died. She explained how the void between galaxies was not empty space, but a realm where the normal rules of reality did not apply. Living there for millions of years had forced humans to evolve beyond anything that could be called natural. They had become beings of pure consciousness that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The humans revealed the true scope of what they had sacrificed to save the galaxy. They had not simply fought the cosmic threat in a normal war with weapons and tactics. They had spent countless ages rebuilding the fundamental structures of reality itself after the enemy had tried to tear them down. Dr. Yoon-ji was the galaxy best scientist for studying alien life forms. She made a discovery that changed everything anyone thought they knew about evolution. The humans had not just left genetic material on different worlds. They had encoded aspects of human consciousness into the quantum structure of life itself. Every act of creativity that any species had ever performed was connected to the original human spark. Every moment of love between parents and children echoed the love humans felt for their galactic descendants. Every sacrifice made by anyone, anywhere, was part of the human legacy of putting others before yourself. The humans demonstrated their evolved abilities by talking directly to every inhabited world in the galaxy at the same time. They did not use radio transmissions or quantum communications. Instead, they spoke through direct consciousness transfer that bypassed all technology and reached minds directly. They shared memories of their long journey through the void, images of singing stars in distant galaxies where the laws of physics worked differently, the terrible beauty of battling entities that existed as pure entropy, trying to reduce all existence to lifeless uniformity, the crushing loneliness of fighting in absolute darkness for causes their enemies could never understand. But the most shocking revelation was still to come. Captain Yonsu's face grew sad as she prepared to tell them why they had truly returned. The cosmic threat we defeated was not destroyed, only delayed. In approximately 1,000 galactic cycles, it will return stronger than before. The news hit the assembled representatives like a physical blow. They had thought the danger was over, that the humans had won their war and come home to live in peace. Instead, they learned that the ultimate test was still approaching and the galaxy would need to be ready for it. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo listened in stunned silence as the human captain explained their plan for the future. "We will not rule over you or make you follow our commands. Instead, we will serve as teachers and guides. Each species will be offered the chance to evolve beyond your current limitations." The humans had brought gifts that seemed like magic to the primitive technology of the galaxy. They showed devices that could heal dying worlds by singing new life into their cores, knowledge that could unlock the deeper mysteries of existence itself. Most importantly, they brought the truth about what the galaxy was really meant to become. The cosmic threat that was approaching was not just a destroyer of worlds. It was an enemy of consciousness itself. It sought to reduce all thinking beings to simple, predictable patterns. Only by evolving beyond their current limitations could the galactic species hope to survive the coming test. Captain Yeonsu showed them recordings of what happened to galaxies that failed the test. Entire spiral arms filled with billions of worlds suddenly became empty, not destroyed by explosions or war, but simply emptied of all creativity and consciousness. The beings there continued to exist, but they no longer truly lived. As the human fleet took up positions throughout the galaxy, they were not occupying territory like conquerors. Instead, they placed themselves as protective guardians, ready to defend their children while teaching them how to defend themselves. Each human ship became a school where different species could learn together. The humans explained that the evolution they offered was not about changing bodies or gaining new technologies. It was about expanding consciousness itself, learning to think in ways that transcended the limitations of single species perspectives, becoming more than the sum of individual parts through unity. Some species embraced this opportunity with joy and excitement. Others feared losing their individual identities in some kind of mental merger. The humans assured them that true evolution meant becoming more yourself, not less. Unity did not require uniformity. As news of the human return spread to every corner of the galaxy, different species reacted in different ways. Some welcomed their cosmic parents with celebration and joy. Others hid in fear of changes they did not understand. A few aggressive species saw opportunity for gain and began making plans. But whether they were ready or not, every thinking being in the galaxy now faced the same fundamental question. Would they choose to evolve beyond their current limitations and help prepare for the ultimate test of consciousness itself? Or would they cling to familiar patterns even if those patterns meant certain death when the real enemy finally arrived?